What if the future isn't coming, but is already unfolding around us? On this episode of the ThriveWell Journey, I'm sitting down with Bo Short, a man whose leadership was forged long before the technology that we will discuss ever existed. He's spoken to more than 1 million people across the globe, and today he leads work that challenges how we think about detection, safety, and health. So Bo survived a plane crash, he survived cancer, and he wasn't looking to build another company until this one changed everything. We talked about prevention instead of reaction, about stopping harm before it happens, and what it costs to carry responsibility when the work in front of you has the power to protect children, families, and entire communities. And we also talked about changing how disease is detected before it even takes hold. This is a conversation about the future and the people shaping it right now. What's up, fam? Before we get into this conversation, let me say this. Look, I know it's a thing, right? But if what we do here on this channel speaks to you, if it lifts you, centers you, or helps you see your life a little clearer, I invite you to like the video and subscribe so you stay connected. And if you want these conversations with you beyond YouTube, download the ThriveWell Journey podcast on your favorite RSS platform. It is a small ask that goes a long way, and it really, truly helps us create the kind of content that doesn't just entertain, but actually supports your journey of growth and alignment. So hit that like, subscribe. Let's breathe in, get present, step into the conversation. So, hey, welcome back to another episode of ThriveWell Journey. I just got to start off and say, and I share this with our guest, Bo, already, that I'm excited to have him on. This is going to be a different conversation, at least from my standpoint. But, I think we're going to be talking about the future right now, based on, all the things about our guests. And so I just firstly want to say thank you for being and spending your time with us on the podcast. So thank you both for being here.
Michael, just know I'm honored to be here. When my guy told me about this, I told him I was thrilled to do it, especially when I found out you're from Atlanta. I remember, I'll just say this, I remember when I was a kid. So my nickname is Bo. And I remember going to my mom, because I was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. And when I went to my mom, I'll never forget, I said, Mom, why did you name me Bo, B-O? And she says, well, sugar, you're from Georgia. We don't spell it any other way than that here. So I'm honored to talk to a fellow Georgian here, or at least replanted in Georgia.
Replanted. Yeah, I moved here in 2001. I went to LA in 2003, and I moved back here in 2016. And all my family's here. Good. So this is home. It's a
great place to be home.
Yes. And, before we get into the meat of who what you're bringing to the world, the technology and all that good stuff, I want people to understand you, the man. And, you are very innovative, and you came from innovation. I think innovation comes from identity. And just really quick, can you just share who you are with our audience?
I'd be happy to. And I'll try to pick and choose how far back to go, because at 66, soon to be 67, this could be a long part. So I'll try to abbreviate this for you. But first and foremost, I was raised by two incredible parents that were that were always big thinkers. And it's funny, because when I speak to audiences, I kind of use this verbiage. I say, some people are taught that, hey, do the best you can, but if things don't work out, it's okay. Well, number one, it's not okay. It's not okay. Then there's a group of people that are taught that, hey, if it's been done before, you can do it. That's a good message to give your kids. If it's been done before, you can do it. It's an encouraging message. I wasn't taught that. Yeah. What I was taught was, even if it's never been done before, you can do it. If it's never been attempted before, you can still do it. So I was raised in this environment with overachievers who instilled in me this belief that no matter what lies ahead of you, you have to overcome it. You can work through it. So that was the foundation of my thought process. That doesn't mean I'm not like everybody else, with my own fears, with my own inhibitions and the things that concern me in life. But as I started to move through life, I ended up on a full football scholarship at the College of William and Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia. I was very blessed there. I will say this, I barely got in and I barely got out. but I got through the process. And, but as I entered into my life, I was that person. I found myself early on working about 60 hours a week in a very good job. Probably in relation to your peer group, I was doing better than most of my peers. But I knew at 60 hours a week as a vice president for this company, I remember I used to sit there in my office and think to myself, I don't want to die doing this. I don't want to die not accomplishing the things in a limited amount of time on earth that I have to accomplish. And so I just started thinking and looking ahead. What's ahead of me? What can I accomplish? And as life would have it, I knew that it was really on my shoulders as an entrepreneur, because I realized that's where I was going to make it as an entrepreneur. And so I started just building my own different kind of businesses, companies, had failures like everybody else, hit walls like everybody else. But through that process, I learned a lot about me, and I learned a lot about how people think. And as I started to have success, and it's funny, when you have success, everybody wants to hear how you did it, but they don't understand it's through the struggle that you're finding your way to doing it. I interviewed a guy one time, you'll appreciate this, who, when I was writing one of my books, who said to me, why do you want to talk to me now that I made it? Where were you when I was failing miserably? And I said, well, no one's interested in your failure until you make it.
Right.
I said, and he goes, all right, here's what happened to me. I failed and I failed and I failed, and then I made it. And so, but the springboard of that, I became president of the American Leadership Foundation, because I wanted to drive this message about more leadership than success principles, but leadership is embedded in success principles. And so for about 15 years, I was very blessed. I had 5 United States acting senators that served on my board of advisors, the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the former director of the DEA, people like that, just people that had huge success in life that I liked to be around. Different political parties, didn't matter to me. I just wanted people that thought differently. And I did that, and I did a lot of work with schools. And as life would, I've been CEO of a tech company. I've owned a bunch of stuff. But during COVID, my wife and I decided, hey, let's kind of, maybe I can semi-retire, because it's as I was getting older. And I said, where do you want to be? And she goes, well, let's go to Montana. So we bought a gorgeous ranch in Northwest Montana. And I came down here to kind of semi-retire and run for governor, maybe something like that. And I got a call from my dear friend Lee Duke, who's my business partner. And Lee called me up and said, would you partner with me and buy this technology with me, and let's do something special for the world with it. And I don't know if there's a scene in the movie The Godfather, where I think it's Michael Corleone, I don't even remember, but he's sitting there in the kitchen. He goes, they keep sucking me back in. And it was that moment where you're like, okay, here we go again. But I will tell you this, lastly, besides my faith, which is the center of my life, my wife, who is the most impactful person I've ever met, this thirdly is the most important thing I've ever done, because it has such powerful ramifications on mankind and what we can do to do some wonderful things in the world. So that's kind of a quick snapshot of 66 years maybe put together.
I'm surprised that you can do that in, I think it was a couple minutes. So at least any people listening and watching, they get the world of who you are as we go into this conversation. And you said you led the American Leadership Foundation, and I got to go just based on my research and everything. So if I'm wrong in my research, just let me know.
It's okay.
It's okay. But it says you've spoken. I know you said you were a speaker, but you spoke to over 1 million people around the world, and you led the organization American Leadership Foundation. And if you look back in your life, was there a defining moment, or just like a disruption in your life that sparked where you are now and how you're thinking?
I think the older you get, the more of those you find, especially looking backwards. I don't think you always know I don't think you always know that what you're in the middle of is going to define who you are 10 years from now.
Yeah.
Right. Life is hard. Life is hard for anybody. I don't care what you have or don't have. Life is hard. And people wake up in the morning with hope that it's going to be a good day, put their feet on the ground and work to give their family the best of themselves. Not everybody, but that's the idea of life.
Yeah.
So when I look back, I can look at a number of things in my life, a failed business, let's say, and you start to question your ability. You start to question, are you good enough to have the success you think you deserve, because none of us deserve it, but to have the success you're willing to work for. And so you find you're either someone who's willing to persevere or not. Napoleon said the greatest attribute of a soldier is not loyalty or courage, it's endurance. It's the willingness and the ability to keep moving. So I think you look at moments like that. I was in a plane crash, December 14th, 1996. We lost the engine at about 5,000 feet, and I was a passenger in the plane. And so for the next 3 minutes, you know you're going to crash. You just don't know where and what's going to happen to you when you hit the ground. And thank God, literally everybody was able, some were carted away in an ambulance, but the people walked away. But that changes a lot of your perspective and how you see. You realize things are pretty easy if you can make it through that. A few years ago, I had cancer. I had throat cancer. Don't smoke, nothing like that. And I was getting ready to go give a speech one day, and I felt a lump under my jaw. And my wife said, "That's not normal. You need to get that checked out." And I ended up having what's called a modified radical neck dissection. It's like a 9-inch cut. They fillet you open. They took out a bunch of lymph nodes, and I had cancer in my throat. And you're laying in bed for 28 days, drinking maybe a half a cup of water, maybe a little thing of Jell-O every day, and you get a perspective. You get a greater understanding of life's challenges. So were there moments of impact for me? A lot of them.
Yeah.
I gave you a few.
Yeah.
But I think that's no different than everybody on a daily basis. And through that disruption, you're going to find out who you are. And it'll help you kind of focus on where you're going. Yeah. I'm a big believer that it's not the how, it's the why. It is the why that you do what you do and what propels you forward. You'll figure out how if you can really sink your teeth into the why of your life. Yeah. So I hope that's helpful in an answer.
No, it's perfect. And much like I asked the question because it's really it's really what we talk about, the purpose of the disruption. And you've had many purposes, and just that's why I asked that question. But I know for me, I was always trying to figure out how, but it always got me messed up, right? But then
it's normal.
Why? Yeah.
Well, you'll appreciate this. After I wrote my first book, I was a young man. I mean, I was probably, 42, 43. I wrote my first book called Foundation of Leadership. And I had a guy who did something I always tell people to do. Find someone you admire and not admire because of what they have. It's not about admiring people what they have. You can go into debt getting stuff. Yeah, it's about who they are. Find somebody that you admire who they are. And I said, and take them to lunch. Sit down with them over breakfast. Pick their brain. I said, people that have had success in life are open to telling someone what they went through and to help encourage people. And I had this guy who's probably 10 years older than me at the time reached out to me and said, "Hey, could I take you to breakfast?" And I said, "Sure." So we sat down and Michael, for about the first 30 minutes, he kept saying, "I don't know what I want to do." You know this feeling in life. I think everybody's had this. I don't know what I want to do. I really don't know what I want to do. And eventually I said to him, I don't mean this to sound disrespectful, but I don't really care what you want to do. It's not about what you want to do. It's about, what do you want? What do you want your life to look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now? I mean, how do you want to look back and see your life? It's not about what you want to do. It's about what you want. So if you can figure out what you want, you go do, as long as it's legal, ethical, and moral, whatever you have to do to get what you want. And because that's where you're going to find joy and not even happiness. I'm not a big believer in this happiness thing that everybody talks about. Happiness is an emotion. It lives and dies based on the moment. Joy is something you live your life with. You choose to live with joy. And I said, but if you just do what you want, 5 years from now, you're going to be changing jobs again.
I think it's really a great foundation for people to kind of just live off of. Like, what do you want? And then that really connects with like who you're becoming, and that can be more fulfilling to who you are, your present person, so that when you're in the future looking back, it's like, you probably thank yourself because you live with that kind of belief.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, because I think the first part of my career, I was kind of chasing just what I wanted to do, trying to figure out, what do I want to do? And then I think as you get older, and I remember my dad used to tell me this, he said, so when you get grayer, now obviously I've gotten really gray. He said, when you get grayer, he said, a lot more things will make sense about your life and what it is that, and the time you spend here, the value of that time you spent here, because it goes by so fast, so fast. And that's why you have to give everything you have to every day God has blessed you with.
Yeah. I constantly remind myself of that. I'm turning 49 in about 10 days here. And
happy birthday.
Thank you. And, that's a thing that's steadily on my mind. Like, turning 49, I look back, I'm like, man, where did the time go? And every time I'm thinking about, what I want to create in my life, it's really like, it stems from, why am I doing what I'm doing? What do I want for the rest of my life? That part right there. And I think that's just a great foundation. And you had a lot of early influences. You said you went to William and Mary College. And then what I've also read is that you had meetings with figures like Muhammad Yunus, Vicente Fox, and Admiral Thomas More. Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. This was, I think of Muhammad Yunus. I was invited down to Mexico by the Vicente Fox, former president of Mexico. A handful of us were invited to his personal residence to meet with Muhammad Yunus, and who was the Nobel Prize winner who created the microloan concept. And he was just talking about how people think, and he was talking about in his community, it was that he created the Grameen Bank, which became the foundational bank, which created this microloan concept. And he would go to beggars on the street and he would give them the opportunity to be entrepreneurs. So instead of asking for money, they would sell a trinket. That was his whole message. And he said that when you empower people to live up to a higher standard, he goes, they want that, but you got to, some of these people that you have to help them get in that place in life. And so, yeah, it was a fascinating 2 days I got to spend with him just to, talk about people and talk about his background and the impact he had in the world. Because I believe, you've heard the adage, you can teach a man to fish, or you can feed a man to fish and feed him for a day, teach him to fish. I kind of believe it lives in the middle of that. While you're teaching people how to fish, you have to feed them. There's this place in the middle that if all you do is teach and they can't eat, they'll starve to death. So in many instances, while you're teaching someone how to fish on their own, it doesn't hurt sometimes to feed them, to help them through that process. So yeah, with him and Admiral Thomas More, former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, I remember being in a conversation with him one day, and I was asking him how you win leadership. And he said to me, you have to serve. I'll never forget it. He said, Bo, if I look at my profession, I'm not here to serve my superiors. I'm here to serve my troops. And if I serve my troops honorably, I'm always serving my superiors and my country honorably. And it really was a great message to me as a young man about, if you will look to the people that trust in you and serve them, you're serving everyone else, your superiors, your country, you're serving everything else.
Yeah.
But if all you're interested in is serving the guy ahead of you, and by guy I mean man or woman, the guy ahead of you, you're not always serving the people that are placing their family and everyone else in your care honorably. And so, yeah, I've been very blessed to learn a lot of valuable lessons through incredible people.
Yeah, when I found out of at least those three people that I could find out that you spent time with, I was like, oh, Wow. Like that's just being in that experience and that presence, you just walk away with, so much great wisdom and knowledge that you can apply to your life, and people can learn from that as well.
Yeah, you'll get a kick out of this. I remember one day I was sitting if you've followed any of, you know who John Maxwell is? He's a best-selling author, writes leadership books. And I was sitting in John's studio one day, and he was talking about, let me phrase the comment right. He said, listen, you can climb a hill in your backyard and no one cares. But if you summit Mount Everest, they write books about you. And I remember hearing that thinking, okay, that's interesting. Well, a few months later, I'm getting ready to go give a speech, and the other keynote speaker was the first gentleman, I feel horrible that I've lost his name, who climbed Mount Everest totally blind, couldn't see. And he was the first blind climber to climb Mount Everest. And I remember going up to him before we went on, because I was there to talk about business and leadership and success principles. And I remember going up to him and saying, how did you do it? Because what Maxwell said to me earlier was, if you climb Mount Everest, you don't do it alone. You do it as a team. You can climb a hill by yourself, but you can't just summit Mount Everest by yourself. And so when I was talking to the gentleman about how did you do this, he said, well, I didn't do it. We did it. And I said, what do you mean we? And he said, look, when it got really bad, I can't see, but I felt somebody's hand on my right foot push it 6 inches forward. And then I felt somebody else's hand on my left foot move it 6 inches in front of that. He said, and we may do that for hours. He said, so I can't say I climbed Mount Everest. I can tell you we climbed Mount Everest. And at that moment, Michael, I remember it was like a boulder hit me in the head. That goes back to when Maxwell said in his studio, if you climb a hill by yourself, no one cares. But you can't do something significant in your life without a team of people.
Yeah.
And it was, those little moments in your life are these aha moments you have, and you don't always know them when you have them. Sometimes it takes 6 months later to figure it out that that's what you had.
I think that's essential, just to connect it with entrepreneurship. When you're talking to an entrepreneur and they're trying to figure things out, like when you have a vision or a dream, you really have to look at it as you bringing people on with that dream and doing it as a team. Because I know if you're trying to do this by yourself, building businesses, entrepreneurship, and all that kind of stuff, it's daunting when you want to do it by yourself. But as a team, if you want to bring that on, it can be bigger than the hill, right? It can be something greater, or like a legacy that you're trying to leave in the world. And so for you, you've done some great things. What is thriving with, ThriveWell journey? We talk about purpose after disruption, but what does thriving look like for you beyond like your achievements?
Oh, thank you. I will say to you very clearly that, and I said it earlier, I touched on it earlier. I look back on the early part of my career, and I think you're just in the quest to try to accomplish some things so you can accomplish some things, right? You're just trying to get somewhere to get somewhere. And oftentimes I think the younger you are, we kind of keep score differently than you do when you get older, when you've got things. It's easier when you have things to look differently, but you should be looking differently. Early on in my career, I was very blessed. I was, even through mistakes, through challenges, through missteps, I was very blessed professionally, financially, personally. But as I look in my life, why this is so important, the work I'm doing today is so important, is, and this is what I touched on a little while ago, my faith. You realize you're not here for long. So the length of time you have, you better do something significant with it.
Yeah.
Regardless of your listeners, I respect whatever they believe. But for me, as I have been put here for a limited amount of time to do something that makes a difference in the world, to not be right. I believe we were all put here. We're not put here to live. We're to be right in everything you say, but to live a righteous life through all our mistakes, or all the things we do that are wrong. So thriving to me today is to attempt to live my life in a way that people say, gosh, what is it about you that makes you this way? To be an honorable husband, And I will say this to you, the more I've focused on those things in my life, the other professional things start to appear in your life. When you start to put your house in the right order, right? I hope this makes sense. When you start to put your house in the right order,
Yeah, it does.
At 66, this is what's fascinating. When I think professionally now, the most significant thing I've ever done in my life professionally, I'm doing at the age of 66. I didn't do it at 40. I didn't do it at 30. I didn't do it at 50. I'm doing it at 66. And I guess the message to people right now, your listeners, is no matter what you're going through today, I don't care how young or how old you are, if you do the right things in your life by people and demonstrate the right character in your life, the best part of your life is in front of you.
Yeah.
You know, my wife says something so powerful. She said, your past is not a residence, it's a reference point. And you can't look backwards, I think, because most people are told, a lot of people are told they can't do things. A lot of people are told they're not worthy. A lot of people hear a lot of things about themselves, sometimes through people that supposedly love them. And if that's a reference point, that's something to understand, but that doesn't define who you are.
Right.
And I think that thriving it's not as hard to thrive financially as people think. It just takes hard work and focus and asking for help.
Yeah.
But I think thriving in other parts of your life are more important because they make the work part of your life easier.
Yeah. I think that's one of the essences, I don't know if I could say it that way, but one of the essences of the podcast is that, you know, you talk about entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship, if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you are an entrepreneur or looking at being one, like there's so much more to just the business of your life and who you're being. You bring that into your business anyway. So it's probably, you know, better for you to really live those parts of your life and be just be great at those levels of your life, or like your personal life, get those in order, and you bring what all that is to your business, and your business is a reflection of your personal life.
Yeah, listen, you're spot on. One of the things that I always try to explain to people is, and you see this, look, I've spoken on stages with remarkable people.
Yes.
And I will tell you, with some of those people off stage, they're not the same people.
Oh,
And
well.
what it tells me, it's scary sometimes, and it's sad most times, because it's like this conversation. It's easy to say certain things. It's harder to live certain things.
Yeah.
But it's easier to say it. I think it's Moliere said, all men are alike in their dreams and all men are alike in the promises they make. What makes them different is what they do. It's not what you say, it's what you do. And one of the things I try to convey to people is you can't not have character in one part of your life and then magically have character in your professional life. You can't do it.
It doesn't work that way.
No, you either have it or you don't. You can't, there's no such thing as segmenting it. And so you're right on that if you will, if you're striving to be the best dad, the best husband, the best wife, the best mother, whatever it is in your personal life, and to build these relationships that really matter in the end, and you then can bring that into your professional life, but you can't bring a lack of character from your personal life and try to pretend you have it in your professional life, because you'll get caught. You'll get caught. And truthfully, you should get caught. You know, you should be found out. And so, you know, and I think the older I've gotten, the more you understand that. The more you understand that it's not about being on stage. It's about, and it's not about applause and all this junk, because who cares at the end of the day? You know, I mean, think of somebody famous 50 years ago. You say their name, most people don't even know who they are.
Right. Right.
So.
Yeah, but you know what? That's really good, and I just that speaks to who you are today and what you're bringing to the world. Even though you try to get out of business, and all that kind of stuff,
right.
It brought you back in.
It's okay.
And I just want to really, this world that you're creating now, it fascinates me, and I'll try to really be present when I'm trying to ask these questions because it goes deeper than what I really truly understand. But
It's okay.
so excuse me if I ask questions that
It's
you've heard
okay.
before that probably are just out the way. So
No, dude, you can't ask a bad question in the quantum physics world. It's
okay,
okay. You're
so
you're
you know where
you're
we're
and
going, right?
understand, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a physicist, and I'm not a scientist. Thank goodness my business partner and I, Lee Duke, have surrounded ourselves with the best of those.
Yeah.
But we're business people.
And as an entrepreneur, that's what you do. You surround yourself with people who know how to do, and then you become the leader of all that. And that's
Yeah.
what you are doing. You're CEO of this thing you call BMR and BMRT, which is the technology. And can you just I know okay, so I know it's a resonant frequency detection identity kind of thing. What I found really extraordinary was that it identifies every element on the periodic table up to 200 cancers. So can you just start to kind of lay the groundwork of what this is
Sure.
before we go into
No, you're good.
deep into it?
I totally get it. And you handled that very well, I thought. So,
Okay.
and you were smart to say BMRT, because when you say base molecular resonance technologies, you think, if you've never said it a lot, you think, am I going to get through this name?
Yeah,
So,
I live to
right.
the
So,
initials.
yeah, I love it. Yeah, I'm with you. So what happened? Just I'll do this in two phases. The first thing, what happened? So I was out in Montana. My wife and I were in Montana. And a dear friend of mine, Lee Duke, one of my dearest friends, he is, we've invested in companies together. We've done things together. He's that guy. He could call me in the middle of the day. And when it's daylight outside, Bo, it's pitch dark, and I'd believe him. We have that relationship.
He's that guy.
I trust him. You know, so much of being in business with people comes down to trust. And so his dad, who was a war hero, he literally, he flew for something called the TWOS, the Tactical Electronic Warfare Squadron, during Vietnam. He's the recipient of the Distinguished Flying Cross. I mean, so he served his country very honorably. But his job during the war was to look for electrical signals from the enemy. And so he would fly in planes with the NSA, the CIA, people like that in the back of the plane, monitoring with very sophisticated equipment. And then they would call in airstrikes. So that's what he did. And one of the things he did in Vietnam. When he got home, you know, for a lot of people, when they left Vietnam, Vietnam didn't leave them necessarily.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's the inherent in war anyway, is you may leave the war, but it doesn't mean the war leaves you all the time.
Right.
And so when he got home, he was still fascinated with signals, finding things, electronic frequencies. And he ended up hooking up with a guy, and they created this technology that takes advantage of resonant frequencies. And I'll explain that, what it is, here in a second. And they evolved that to where they got a patent on it, and they had a prototype. And he was approaching 80, and he told his son, Lee, would you take over the company? And Lee said, I don't want to take over the company, but I'd like to maybe buy the technology and then take it to a different level. And so Lee called me because of our relationship, said, would you partner with me in this and pursue this? And I remember for about the first 90 days, Lee and I co-owned it. And I would say, you know, Lee, if this is true. And he laughed. He said, Bo, you got to stop saying if this is true. You own this with me.
Yeah.
And so anything, time there's skepticism, I understand it. Because even me in the beginning, and I was all in, financially, everything with Lee. Okay, so what is it that we're all into? So here's what I want you to envision. And go back to fifth grade, maybe, when you saw the Niels Bohr's model of an atomic structure. You have the center, which is the nucleus, and then you have these electrons around it, right? And it really doesn't look like that. That looks like a solar system. What it really looks like is waves, like clouds. Mm-hmm. But everybody kind of defines it a certain way as they saw it as a kid. But so use that picture in your head of an atomic structure. What people don't all realize, and this is known science for decades, but what people don't all realize is every atomic structure, that nucleus is spinning. Those protons and neutrons are spinning.
Yeah.
And around that, in an elliptical pattern, those electrons are spinning as well. That spinning creates a resonance, a sound, a frequency. It creates noise that you can't hear. Every atomic structure has a sound attached to it. When you take two atoms and you put them together, you have a molecule, right? And that molecular structure has a different sound. So hydrogen has a sound, oxygen has a sound, but when you put them together and have water, it has its own unique sound. So that's a given. That's known science. We didn't invent any of that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ever go on YouTube and you see a guy, when I say guy, once again, I mean man or woman, you see a guy take a tuning fork and they'll hold it up and they'll hit it. And if they have the same dialed into the same frequency, the next tuning fork, all they have to do is hold it and it'll start making a sound because that's its companion sound, right? Okay. So you understand that.
Yes.
Here's what base molecular resonance technologies does. We have a transmitting antenna, a receiving antenna. And we send out a very low frequency or extremely low frequency wave, ELF, VLF. It's on one side of the spectrum. The other side would be gamma rays, X-rays, dangerous stuff. Mm-hmm. Ours is where Wi-Fi routers live, cell phone technology live. This is less dangerous than your Wi-Fi router. Look at it that way. It's safer than a Wi-Fi router. So what we have is we have a protocol. It's called a frequency identification protocol, where we know take nitrocellulose and gunpowder. We know what that frequency is, that resonant frequency of nitrocellulose and gunpowder is based on our algorithms and our protocols. And we'll send out that signal. So we send out it's an RF signal, radio frequency signal. And as it's going, and understand this can circumnavigate the globe multiple times in a second. It's that kind of wave that's going out. And as it goes, if it goes over nitrocellulose, let's say there's a bullet and it goes over nitrocellulose, the moment that happens, the nitrocellulose recognizes that frequency and it goes from a stable state to an active state. It kind of wakes up because of that impact of that frequency. And we use the terminology, it sings out for a period of time. Here's what BMRT does. We have created now an electromagnetic line to that sound. We have a receiving antenna and we get the signal back that what we were looking for is present. And so what makes this, like we can detect a 22 caliber bullet at 71 feet, a fully loaded AR-15 with 30 rounds of 5.56 in it at 580 feet, 10 out of 10 times through multiple buildings. Because think about this, in the world of quantum physics, the buildings don't exist. It sounds cool, but they don't exist in this world. And so what we're doing is we're creating, when we go across this material, if it's not there, we don't hear anything. We just don't hear anything. And the larger the volume, okay, so that's why a 22 caliber round is at 71 feet in today's tech. We're doing some things in the lab, which we can get it much further, but in today's technology, it's 71 feet. 3 bullets may be 200 feet. It's that kind of thing. That's why you get to a fully loaded AR-15. But the impact of that is this. Today we have frequencies for all elements on the periodic table and up to 200 types of cancers and other diseases and things I can't even talk about publicly that we currently can detect. So when we did our first study with the Center for Applied Innovation out of York St. John University, New York, England, because they have a brilliant physicist leading their organization. They came to the United States and we did illegal drugs, we did cancer, because they're all molecular structures or atomic structures. It's all they are. We did uranium, we did plutonium, some things that I could just share a little bit with you. And we did nitrocellulose. And then we've since done something we can talk about later with the U.S. government in a test that they asked us to do. But through that, when we did the study with the York St. John University, we were 100% accurate with no false positives and no false negatives, because it is either there or it's not there. So it has been, you don't sleep at night, because think about this now. One of the passions we have is school shootings. No parent should ever send their child to a school wondering if they're going to see them when school's over. Shouldn't even be a thought process. It should be, how was your day today? Should be the only thought process. Mm-hmm. We can detect a would-be shooter as they enter the parking lot, because we can detect in moving vehicles. We can detect through cars. I mean, there's not a structure that nothing's ever been able to defeat it. So it's like Star Wars stuff. It just happens to be real. So it's that kind of thing. I was thinking. It's very. No, you're good. I don't blame you. I don't blame you. It is. But then again, you think about the internet wasn't a thing until it was a thing. The combustion engine wasn't a thing until it was a thing. Manned flight wasn't a thing until it was a thing. Cellular technology wasn't a thing until it was a thing. And when it wasn't a thing, people said it could never be a thing. And then the next day it was a thing.
It was a thing.
It's innovation.
And that's where let's talk about the school safety and prevention. I know you said it's non-invasive. It's better than a Wi-Fi wave. I don't know what you call it, but
it's okay.
And so, like, when you look at it, like, I don't know, is it out now? Is there a cost to the model for schools? Is it going to be something that's going to be in schools to bring safety to schools? Because we are dealing with a lot of school violence, and so how does that play into the school rights and all that kind of good stuff?
That's great. We just signed a letter of intent to form a relationship with a group called Safe Space, and so just picture that there's these. And you wouldn't even know what it is, but there would be a box. I'm just make it easy for people to capture. There'd be a box around a perimeter of a school. And what Safe Space does is they have some unique technology with AI, photography, and the ability to communicate. What we would do is we would integrate our technologies, because we're in the process of developing this with them. We would integrate our technology into their technology. And so we would detect, let's say somebody has a gun and they're coming into the school. They're not in the school. The problem with school shootings is about them because someone's been shot.
Because afterwards, yeah.
It's afterwards. And that's not prevention. That's, oh my goodness, what do we do now? Moments. So what we've got is the ability, when someone drives into the parking lot, our technology senses that nitrocellulose, and it's connected to their technology, which would then capture the photos, plus will automatically lock the school doors and notify the police. So when we talk about, and we just created this relationship literally just a few weeks ago, but that's what's going to be coming to the market. We are bringing this. We're in the process of advancing our technology so that we can, with a different form factor, because a lot of it's form factor driven, connect those two technologies together, so that you don't have a debate about the Second Amendment. Is not a debate anymore. It's not whether you believe there should be guns or not. It's not that. This saves kids from getting killed. This saves children from being exposed to violence they don't need to be exposed to. So that's what the debate should be. How do we prevent this?
Yeah. I was going to ask you, with the invention of that in connection with Safe Space, I know that is a common argument between the left and right, and just people in general. Do you see that this invention will really kind of get rid of that argument?
Well, let's put it this way, in my opinion, because I'm very pro Second Amendment. I'm very pro responsibility as well, being responsible with because I don't see these things as gifts you have. I see them as responsibilities you have.
Right.
Listen, we live in a day and age, Michael, that I don't think the argument will ever go away, because it's not about the logical victory in the argument. It's about victory in an argument, not the thing that makes the most sense, just the thing that person A believes and person B believes differently. So I don't think the argument goes away. I think the logic is different now. I think if I can help you, because at the end of the day, if you're a parent, you may be pro guns or anti guns. Doesn't matter. The most important thing is you don't want your children getting hurt by guns. Right? Period. The whole idea of this is to put you in a situation where that concern goes away. My business partner, when the recent Florida State shooting, his son was barricaded in his room, and his son's girlfriend was running across the quad trying to avoid the shooter.
Wow.
I mean, this is real life stuff.
This is real life, yeah.
Yeah, and the truth is, and because my belief is, if somebody's going to do something wrong, they're not doing it legally anyway. They're doing it illegally anyway.
Yes.
But that's an argument that will always live, because people have very strong views. I can't change their views, but what I can do is help protect their children. And this technology can help protect their children. Have the debates you want. That's fine. But at the end of the day, and I would love to see this help solve some of those debates. I mean, it's like when President Trump got shot in Pennsylvania. We could have detected that shooter as he was pulling up to park his car, because if we'd had these on the perimeter. So there are solutions to big problems, and it has to be a big solution to these big problems. And so people will still live in the things they debate, the things they believe, and I can't impact that. But what I can certainly do is make some of the reasons that they debate these things less important. Because if we have an opportunity to help children, it's our responsibility to help them.
Yeah, I think that's the most important part of it all, is really protecting the youth. And not to sound, cliche, but the youth, they are the future. I mean, so you really want to protect them, their young lives that can go on and do amazing things, much like your company.
If I could add this, think about this, Michael. My wife was a school teacher, taught all levels, including college, but her core was she was a third grade teacher. Mm-hmm. And 1 year in her being a teacher, they had 18 bomb threats. Now, just think about that for a minute. 18 bomb threats. They had to close the school down 18 different times. Okay, so let's say escalate that. Let's say you actually have a traumatic shooting or something like that. What children, it's fine. You go back to school the next week, but it doesn't mean you don't forget what you experienced.
Yeah.
So the trauma that and the fear that you instill in young people at an early age is a fear they shouldn't have to. There's enough things in life to worry about. Going to school shouldn't be one of them.
Yeah.
And that's the blessing of this, is we have an opportunity to impact. And it may be cliche, but it's a true statement. That's why it's cliches. It's true. This is the future of in this country and around the world, and our job is to protect those young people that are counting on us to do that.
Got that? Yeah, very true. So you have the prevention of school safety and all that, and I think that's amazing. And then two things that we share, I survived cancer. That's no longer an issue. You survived cancer. That's no longer an issue. And your technology can identify cancer as well, 200 types of cancer and other diseases. What does that look like? Is that a thing that someone can buy in the future for their home?
Well, number one, congratulations on what you did to overcome it. I'm so proud of you and so happy for you and your family for that. So envision, okay, so being my age, when I say the term Star Trek, if you're not my age, you're not thinking of the original William Shatner Star Trek. You're thinking of a different Star Trek. Okay. So in my days, they had this thing called a tricorder, right? And the doctor would run it up and down people. Today, the device stands about 3 feet tall, weighs under 10 pounds. It's like a golf club almost. If you go on the website, you see it. Where we're going with the technology is it'll look more like this, like a cell phone, in that encapsulated like that. The idea is this. I lost my mom to stage 4 ovarian cancer. She found out when it was stage 4 ovarian cancer. So the doctor told her, you've got a period of time to live. That's a traumatic moment.
Yes.
So
I know that for myself. My mom, she had brain cancer. So yeah.
Oh, buddy, I'm so sorry. God bless you. I'm so sorry. But it's something and it's something kind of as a society we've gotten used to, even though cancer, people are overcoming cancer now when they didn't before. It's great.
Yeah.
But we have the ability to detect cancer at its earliest stages, because remember now, it's a molecular structure. I mean, it sings out. It has a frequency. It's still there. I mean, the science the physics are the same. It's just applied in a different way, a different frequency, looking for a different thing. So right now we're working with looking to announce something here shortly with a very large cancer research hospital to start going through our FDA studies. And, because that's a different world. Now you're dealing with the FDA, you're dealing with tests. But the whole idea, the great world one day is this. You go to your primary care physician, they weigh you, they take your height, they take your blood pressure, and then they scan you. And it's simple, it's instantaneous, it's non-invasive, you don't feel anything. You could do it over and over again. And like I said, it's safer than a Wi-Fi router. But if you have prostate cancer, all of a sudden they would get a reading that, hey, we need to take you to that next step. We need to send you to a urologist or something. We need to do a PSA on you. We need but now you'll know early. And if you can help someone early, you can keep this from progressing in most cancers. And so it's a unbelievable. I mean, you can literally save millions of people, and you can save the system billions of dollars by a very simple, affordable, non-invasive scan that we have the ability to do today. We're just progressing our tech so that we can put it in a form factor that it can be done in that setting with. And think about this. When I went in for my surgery, I had it originated in my throat, but I had it in a lymph node. And being a cancer survivor, when you get it in a lymph node, you start to wonder, is it in other lymph nodes? Is it something? Has it traveled somewhere I don't know?
Right.
And so they took out 28 lymph nodes around it and found out it was only in that one lymph node. But with technology like this, when they took out that one lymph node, they could have scanned me and said, hey, there's no more cancer. We don't have to take out any more lymph nodes. There's so many applications in the cancer world.
Yeah, even beyond that, like I was trying to figure out how to structure this conversation, because I know I was going to maybe talk about it at the beginning, but I said, no, let's just kind of flow the conversation, let you kind of, talk about it, because you have the skill and the know-how, and you know what it's all about. But there's so many things that the BMR does. I don't know if do you call it BMR?
We call it BMRT.
BMRT, I mean?
Just call it BMRT. It's easy. If you say that, it's easy to say, and you can say it, and I'll know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay. Yeah, so there's many things. It talked about, weaponized drones and DNA and all that kind of stuff that I found out. And, we deal with human trafficking. And it said that it can detect DNA signatures for human trafficking cases. Is that a thing too?
Yeah, here's what's fascinating. So much of our board is comprised of John Walsh is a friend of mine from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children.
Yes,
and Robbie Calloway. I sat on his PR committee for his board of directors. Robbie Calloway, who's chairman of our board, was one of the original founding board members. Was the original founding board member with the National Center. And Robbie is somebody when we built the board, quite frankly, I remember we were building the board, and I said, look, it's not people we trust. My dad, who's a hero of mine, was the chief of staff, or at the time, Senator Strom Thurmond, the longest serving senator at the time in the history of America. And my dad had been with him for 30 years, was his chief of staff. And I remember telling my business partner, look, we don't need people we trust. We need people my dad could trust. Because these are people that have deep roots, a bigger understanding of bureaucracies. And so I reached out to Robbie immediately and said, listen, we have something very special, very unique. And I need to protect it well, but we need to steward it well. There's a lot of stewardship in this because it can have such a big impact for people in their life. So that being said, the human trafficking, a lot of our board members are also connected to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Just wonderful, wonderful people. I mean, it's a blessing every day we interact. But one of the things that we have always said is we can detect DNA. And when Israel got hit, I'll just give you a kind of a story. When Israel got hit, I got a call from somebody there that said, can you detect DNA? Because remember, at the time, they had like 100 prisoners. Mm-hmm. I mean, they had 100 hostages, forgive me. And so I said, yeah, we can do DNA. And the individual said, have you ever done it before? And I said, no, but we can do DNA. It's a molecular structure. We can detect everything but light. And we have a protocol for understanding what the frequencies are. So with respect to him, because he was right, he said, do it and then let me know. And so, and our engineering team loves this stuff. So when we give them something new to do, we said, hey, go let's prove we can do DNA. So it's very quick. I mean, they immediately started swabbing people, right? And to get their DNA. And then we took one person and we got the frequency for that one person. That one swab. What is the frequency for that swab? I mean, it's deep science stuff, but the overview of the stories make it sound so simple. It's not. And so then it was as simple as, okay, so let's take the different slides with the swabs on them and put them in front of the detection, and nothing. And then the one that you have the frequency on goes off. But the real secret is now walk the people in front of it. And so you start walking people in front of it, and the one where we have the frequency every time went off and the others did not. And so we can do DNA. And if you just envision, this is future thinking, but you got to live in the future thinking of life, right? You have to live about where you're going, not just where you are, because you'll never get anywhere if you just live where you're going. And so we can set up a web of these sensors, just look at it that way is an easy way to say it, throughout a city, throughout a community. I mean, you have cameras at every light now. Yeah. You have lights along the road. You could put these anywhere. And if we had a database that had your child's, let's say, DNA, and it was in a database that we had the frequency, and something happened to your child and they were taken from wherever, and you went into a system and said, hey, my child's been taken. It's kind of like when you get an Amber Alert today. Mm-hmm. And then we literally could have our sensors tuned to that frequency and start identifying if somebody's taken them down the road, start identifying where they are, and then follow them through the system. I mean, the future is unbelievable that you can wrap your arms around these kind of things. But yes, we can do DNA. And it's not just finding someone that's lost, but identifying somebody that doesn't belong somewhere. Yeah. Because if somebody that doesn't belong in a school, that's been arrested for the wrong things.
Yeah, that's why I said in the beginning of the conversation, like, I really feel like we were talking about the future now in this conversation, which is very, like, even before this, we started the podcast, it was so interesting to me, what this thing can do. And I think that, it can handle a lot of things and solve a lot of things. But do you think that there will be people that will be against that idea that, you can look at people's DNA and all that kind of stuff?
Oh, yeah. I mean, because, of course. And understandably so, too. I mean, when you're talking about DNA, you're talking about something very today, if somebody came to us and said, hey, my child's been abducted, I think they're in this area, and we got a DNA, we could at least know the frequency to help law enforcement in that process. Listen, I think when you look at it this way, so the question may be bigger and it's a good question. It's the ability to do so many things. There's also dangerous things that can result from it.
Right. That's the question.
Right? Of course it is. And it's more than a fair question. That's why responsibility in this makes a big difference. It's much like this is a very dangerous weapon when used wrong. It's a very cellular technology. What can a child access on their parent's cell phone or the internet? Weapons are good and they're bad depending on who's carrying them, right? The internet is good and bad depending on not only who's using it, but what's being pushed through it to the person who's using it. I think every great innovation carries these blessings and these things you have to be careful of. Yeah. Every great innovation. Manned flight is one of the most incredible things in the world, unless it crashes into the World Trade Center. Right? Every great innovation has these incredible pluses and some of these minuses that are devastating. That's why I use the word steward.
Yeah.
This is so important that this is stewarded properly. This is not something you have China build, right? This is not something you share technology with the rest of the world on in certain aspects of this technology. This is not technology that you create so that people can steal it. If somebody cracks it open, you want it to self-destruct, so to speak, because it's as long as you're mindful of, as in any technology, the downside to it. The upside is so great, you have to protect from the downside of it. And that's why I think how you use it, who uses it, where you use it, can be a great blessing to save a lot of people. And that's how it has to be implemented.
Yeah.
Does that help answer that? Because I get the question. I think it too, believe me.
Yeah, I know it definitely does. I mean, I think about, a fork is a fork, to eat spaghetti until you use it to jab somebody. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
Everything has a responsibility. I think the person that is stewarding that responsibility, they take the weight of, making sure it's stewarded correctly. And I think,
and if you think of cancer detection, it's not, because some people ask this, well, what about big pharma? What are they going to do to you? It's not about trying to take on big pharma. The reality is, if I can help detect cancer earlier, means we can put people in a situation in a medical setting that I'm not a part of that helps cure their cancer or save their life earlier. Right. And that's where big pharma and these other medical devices come into play. My job is not to challenge them. My job is to help them do their jobs better, more efficiently, and faster, right? Yeah. Because we know the longer you have cancer, the more likelihood there is to die of cancer. If I can catch it early, you can live longer. So so when you have a device that will be used in a cancer setting, it's not the same device that'll be used in a gun setting. It's a different frequency. It has a different wave form factor. It's a totally different device, and you can't modify one of them to do the other thing. So it can't be modified to do something different.
I like it. I mean, I think it's people talk about AI, and AI has its arguments with people, and people great about AI, or people don't like AI. It's a thing. Everything new has its its journey, and people either they rail against it or they love it. But just recently, what I'm finding out, in Edison, you got an Edison Award nomination, and
that was. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, it's like, joining innovators like that's the NVIDIA, Tesla, Apple. And isn't that crazy? Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it's an absolute honor, and it's not even one we applied for. We were notified. It was a scientist over in the UK, and then we got notified from Edison that we were a nominee for the Edison Award. No, the neat thing about the Edison Award, it's not like their nomination process is people submit nominations. And in most things, then you say, okay, you've been nominated. That's not how Edison works. You submit these nominations, then they call through those and they get rid of X number and they say, okay, now these are the people that are nominated. So you have to even win a nomination. And it's that kind of thing. So it was an honor. It was an honor because the people that have won the various Edison Awards in the past, and to be included in that category is an absolute honor. And all I can do is give credit to our team, my business partner, our board. You take very little, this is that team thing. Everyone contributed to something significant. So yeah, it's a special honor. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. I think what you've created and going into partnership with Lee Duke, I think it's probably the perfect partnership for something like this, from what I'm gathering, and I think it's going to be a great thing, and I'm excited to have talked to you before it goes, public. And it's just an honor for me to have you on.
Thank you.
So what's next? What's the next step for what you're doing? And
Well,
what
we just concluded a government sponsored test, and this one I'm very limited in what I can say because it was for a very specific combatant command. But the government sponsored the test. And it was a different world. I mean, when you do an academic test, it's received in the private sector very well. When you do a government sponsored test, because the government, what government different entities will say is, have we ever tested it? Mm-hmm. Right? That's great. You have an academic test. Have we ever tested it? So we got a call from this specific group that had been attempting to do something for a period of time, number of years, and had no success. And they asked us if we would be a part of their test. And we said, sure, because I mean, our personal directive is, listen, we need to get this to the masses as quickly as possible. People need to benefit from this. We don't need to have something we talk about. We need to have something people live and can benefit for their families with. And so we said, yes, we would do it. We went out for a couple of days at one of America's premier testing facilities. There's a lot of this stuff I can't say, so I'll say all I can. Yeah. And some of the detections we did, 5 stories underground. It's never been done before in history. And the only reason we didn't go 6 stories is they couldn't. They had the ability to go 5 stories underground. That was it. We did 20 kilometers. The furthest I think they'd ever detected what they were trying to do was 100 meters. And we were able to do 20 kilometers. And the reason we had to stop at 20 kilometers is there was no more test range to go back on. We'd have been in the highway. So we had this remarkable result, which is now progressing to a different place. We're blessed that it got a lot of attention. But when I think about where we are and where we're going, it is one of those moments in your life, and it goes back to what I said in the very beginning. You don't sleep at night. You don't sleep at night, not because of the financial value this has. I started sleeping at night a long time ago, professionally like that. It's the impact. When I talk to people that will say, listen, my son was in a school shooting, you sit there and think, man, I wish this had been in the world before that happened. It's when somebody sends their child off to war, boy or girl, it doesn't matter. They're still their child that they're sending into war, and they get blown up by an IED. And if they're fortunate enough to come home, but if they come home with one leg or no legs, you sit there and say, oh, I wish this had existed then. Yeah. When you had your cancer, when your mom went through her experience, when my mom went through hers, and when you and I went through their experiences with them, you think, gosh, I wish this had been available to them then. And you start thinking about how life could be so different had something as unique as this, because it is truly one of one. No one else in the world has this. How unique this one thing could impact so many people, because it's not the person with cancer, it's their family, it's their friends, it's everyone around them. And so our whole job today is to get this into the market as quickly as possible, to benefit as many people as possible, just to make the world safer, people healthier, and to save a lot of untold pain and suffering.
I love that. Yeah, I think about, when you were saying that, I was thinking about, had it been, around when Mom was going through her thing and so forth and so on. But I think I can't wait for to see how it really, manifests in the world, as it already has. But for you to be the leader of that, I truly appreciate you for doing that for
Thank
the
you.
world, and being just really being I can't think of the word right now. No, I'm missing the
No,
word.
it's okay.
Um,
Well, listen, so from Lee and I both, because it is very much of a team effort from Lee and I and our board and our team. Just thank you for giving me the moment to share that, but most importantly to encourage people, your listeners, about their life, about the journey they're on, the visions they have. When I wrote my first book, there were 5 attributes that I talked about: vision, courage, perseverance, responsibility, and character. And that great leaders, if you kind of do a deep dive with them, not leaders, because there's bad leaders too. So great leaders, good leaders, they have these similar principles and these similar attributes of leadership that they share. And if just know, I mean, I always love talking about what we do professionally, but to be able to share with your audience and the things they can do personally in their life to accomplish their goals and their dreams and their hopes. Hope is a powerful force in human nature.
yes.
And if you wake up every day with it, it's great. And lastly, just to you, I'm so proud of you. I know I'm so proud of what you do and the message you bring to people through your podcast, and you're easy to talk to, buddy. So thank you.
Thank you, Bo. Thank you. Thank you for being such a contribution to the podcast, to the world. And it's been a pleasure talking to you. I mean, I could go longer, but I know, it's within the hour. So it's past the hour. So I don't want
No, that's
to
great.
kill the time. But thank you so much for just sharing what you're up to, what BMRT is really contributing as well to the humanity. And just want to say thank you. And
Thank you.
to all our listeners and watchers, I don't know, can people connect with you? Do you have a website or anything?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I'll make it real easy. So if you go to bmrt.io, my email is on there, but I'll just tell you this. Mine's easy. It's bo at bmrt.io. And sincerely, I have this big belief that if you've been blessed in life, you got to share that with other people, and you got to share that message and encourage people. And I think there's always enough time in a day to be able to do that. I mean, none of us are so good. Believe me, none of us are that good. And it's an opportunity. So yeah, people are free to get, and you can go to our website and you can find me, and just, God bless you and everything that you're doing to impact so many people, Michael, and to your audience as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Bo. And with that, we'll say, as we always say, make thriving our new normal. And we'll see you on the next podcast. Thank you.
Thank you.